So right now, I'm about 36 hours from my first viewing of Boba Fett, Season 1, Episode 2. Honest mistake there with Mandalorian. This is my thoughts on it. Be prepared for a short video because I didn't think much of it. Here we go. Book of Boba Fett, Episode 2. Well, I'm going to cover both of the episodes because, to be fair, when I was covering the numbers, I didn't really give you my perspective about the episodes. First episode, not a lot happened. Lots of flashbacks and then flashbacks within flashbacks, which that's always frustrating. I'm really not convinced that it was necessary to use the back to tank as a plot device to give you the flashbacks. I thought a more straightforward form of storytelling would serve this story better than the current one being used right now. It's just frustrating. Very lazy, in my opinion, and many other writers would agree. But after the first episode and its formulaic treatment of the story, many of these Disney minus shows rely on this formula. And sometimes it works and sometimes it doesn't. In this particular type of storytelling, because you're constantly flashing back and even flashing back further sometimes, or nested flashbacks, I don't know. You end up with a little bit of action, bigger bunch of action, the biggest amount of action, small amount of action. It's usually what happens. And it's somewhat predictable. And it's also, like I said, lazy that you keep going back to this is how we got from A to B. Boba Fett, from where he was to before he took over, as Tatooine Crime Lord Supreme, whatever this is, the Godfather, of the Dune Sea, well, actually just pretty much all of Tatooine. You have our knowledge of Boba Fett to date, which is him helping out the Mandalorian in the previous season in a couple of episodes. How he gets out of the Sarlacc pit and enslaved by the Sand People and remains that way is very much out of character for him. Once strangling that monster and evaluating the position that he was in, it allowed for him to be accepted by the Sand People, right? And that's all well and fine, but there was, if not many opportunities, there was at least one in all likelihood that he would have escaped after choking out that dog thing and essentially, murdered everybody that was there, because that is within his character. Boba Fett's not a nice guy. His ship is called the Slave One. So he has a history, one that is easily observable in just the few minutes of screen time that he got in the original trilogy. Episodes 4, 5, and 6, for those of you out there. He was, again, you get to see in a flashback, kind of created out of the circumstances with his father, Jango Fett, being essentially executed in the prequel trilogy, right? And so this is not a person who's going to be warm and fuzzy. He's not going to be inclined to working as a team member. The escape from the Sarlacc pit was a little bit different if you got into the books. I don't want to even go there. Let's just go with the filmography. He wasn't a good dude. He even stood up to Darth Vader. He froze Han Solo in carbonite. He did his very best to eliminate Luke Skywalker on the skiff barge over the Sarlacc pit. In other words, what changed? Why is he different when he encounters the Sand People, who he probably has had some dealings with, being that he was a bounty hunter in the employ of Jabba the Hutt in Huttonese space. One of the most feared characters of the time. And you're not, explicitly told that. It doesn't have to be explicit, We'll move into the second episode after his acceptance by the Sand People, where he starts to train in the use of a gaffy stick, which is interesting. He's never allowed to win in that circumstance, at least not against his trainer, but he's very confident when he goes into town to acquire some of the Tatooine Sons of Anarchy chapters speeder bikes, and I guess they're called swoop bikes. He beats them all to a pulp with a flashback or a member berry, I should say, scene of some people that were eliminated from the first film, which I guess is an homage to a cut and deleted scene. He takes the bikes back to the Sand People because they have been subjected to a speeder train that's very convenient and is reminiscent of Lawrence of Arabia. In fact, if you watch the film, there's some shot-for-shot stuff there that seems to be, borrowed, for lack of a better word. And as they use the speeder bikes to take over the train, they run into a situation where they are all in grave jeopardy. The one sand person, who is pretty badass, to be honest with you, and most likely female, which I don't care about, makes their way onto the train, running the swoop bike plumb into it, and essentially finding themselves on top of the train. They open the hatch, drop down to the bottom, and start kicking booty throughout the train, which, to be honest with you, was kind of cool. Also kind of lazy, reminiscent of some of the action scenes that you would see in Indiana Jones film, with just kind of how interestingly absurd some of it was. Anyway, ultimately, you get to the point where Boba Fett has to save the day by pulling the lever on the train that's been irreparably damaged, at least the controls have been, to slow down and eventually stop the train, causing it to stop, putting them in a position to plunder it. And of course they do. Interestingly enough, Boba Fett is communicating with the people who are transferring this spice that's been mined, and essentially negotiating on behalf of the Sand People to strike a bargain with these traders, merchants, whatnot, of these speeder trains, so that they would essentially just pay a tribute or a fee to cross the Dune Sea, which at least where this particular tribe resides, it's their piece of the land. And so essentially he sets up a protection scheme with the Sand People. Beyond that, not much else is learned other than in real time, supposedly, or the time that we understand is after he took over Jabba's position from Bib Fortuna. We come across the twins, who I believe are Jabba's family members, whom he can't kill because he has to get permission from the other Hutts, who are trying to stake claim to Jabba's seat. The mayor, who is an interesting character in and of himself, is trying to convince us that he wasn't the person that set the group of assassins on Boba in the first episode. I've been thinking about this again, 36 hours or more later, and I still have a lot of problems with this particular episode. And again, I fully expect them to try to serve up a third episode that'll keep me interested, with some bang up action and a lot more advancement of the actual plot, and maybe less filler, which brings us to my final point. And I think I made this a couple of times yesterday if you watched any of the live streams I was on. This is an example of a 2-hour film that has been ground down to multiple episodes with a bunch of filler added in to flesh it out completely. And it doesn't appear that it's anything but that. There are no reasons to have these episodes be as short as they are. You're on a streaming platform. Each of these could be an hour long. It could be longer. You're sticking to a very formulaic way of doing things, with a minute and change worth of, in the previous episode, plus the opening credits, and the 5 minutes or so of closing credits in each one of these episodes. So you're taking a 48-minute, 44-minute structure that you would normally apply to linear commercial television and putting it on top of a streaming service. Again, no reason not to make these an hour or more long. You have no time constraints. But as a person that looks at this from a business perspective, I will say there's a decent chance this will end up on a streaming service, a ad-based streaming element that Disney Plus is probably going to add along with everybody else when they realize that they have to have the commercial support of commercials on top of a pay-for platform, which is probably the only way that they're going to be able to make this thing worth it, because their ARPU is so low. They just can't seem to compete. Netflix is starting to discover the ARPU factor in international markets such as India as well. And again, in order to maintain profitability or reach profitability in the case of Disney, you're gonna have to sell a service that is tiered, that there has to be some level of commercial. So that would explain why they have limited the length of these episodes, so that eventually, if they have to, they can jam some linear style television commercials within it. So finally, we arrive at the rating that I'm going to give this, and it's going to be quite low. Out of 5 stars, this gets 2. 2. It had less compelling monsters in the second episode. It had a weird member berry. It had some in-character stuff that Boba Fett would do, and some very out-of-character stuff that he wouldn't do. And again, because of the lack of consistency of the character overall, and not explaining his sudden change of heart in any way, and his sudden interest in setting up a protection racket for the Sand People, it's insane. Anyway, I'm just curious if you guys think I'm terribly off base. Maybe I am. Maybe you're out there enjoying it. And if you are, please don't let me yuck your yum. If it's your jam, that's fantastic. It has to be okay for us to disagree on some stuff. And in this area, I'm afraid if you're, thinking this thing's 100, then we're going to disagree. With that being said, what are your thoughts? Please use the comment section down below. I usually get to the comment section a few hours after the videos premiere, so please go ahead and give me your thoughts. Is this something that you're still compelled to watch? If so, what are your ratings of the show? If you're not compelled to watch it and you have seen some of the episodes so far, there's only been 2. Give me your thoughts on your ratings for the episodes as well. Other than that, be sure to support other independent creators. They certainly could use your support. They are not getting it from the platform that was all about the creators in the first place. They are instead favoring the corporate content creators. Let's see what we can do about fixing that. I'm going to end the video the same way I always do and say, be sure to take care of yourself, take care of others, wash your hands, of course, because it's good hygiene. It really is. And until next time, bye. Thanks for visiting today. Be sure you're subscribed and hit that for alerts. Yay! Of course, like and share all of the videos that you can, as it helps with the algorithm. Have a great day.